What is going on, YouTube? So coming back today with my Stanley Cup Final preview, and if you watch game tonight, Penguins took it 2-1, won series over the Lightning in 7. But last night the Sharks also beat the Blues 5-2 to win the series in 6 for the West. So we got the Sharks and Penguins, which honestly should be a pretty entertaining series. Obviously, the San Jose Sharks making the Stanley Cup Final for the first time in their franchise history. I believe the Penguins are making the Cup Final for the first time since, I want to say, 2009. So, looking up and down this matchup, it's a matchup of two pretty different teams. Sharks are a team that, they like crisp puck movement. They rely more on their puck movement, shooting, skating, or not just puck movement and shooting, than the Penguins relying just on pure speed and peppering the goalie as they did against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I just want to start with my 3 key players for each team, my 2 keys to victory for each team, and then my just overall prediction in the series. So start with the Pittsburgh Penguins. My 3 key players. First one is Phil Kessel. I think that Phil Kessel has been underrated through this playoff run. He was a little bit quiet at the end of the series against the Lightning, but I think that he can be huge. The Penguins are going to need some help with their secondary scoring, and people are going to have to step up outside of Malkin and Crosby. Brian Russ stepped up huge tonight. The only 2 goals that the Penguins were able to score, both by him. Nick Bonino's been huge. Obviously, Sidney Crosby's been huge. But anyway, like I said, Phil Kessel, great scorer. That HBK line of Bonino, Kessel, and Hagelin, while it did switch up a little bit later in the series, it's been huge for the Penguins so far. So my second key for the Pittsburgh Penguins is Matt Murray. Obviously, he's been big for them so far, but it's been an inconsistent run for him, especially through the conference finals. Ended up getting pulled for Marc-Andre Fleury during one game, and then, Game 5, and then getting the start again in Game 6, and really came up pretty big in both games. He's going to have to be big again against the San Jose Sharks, a team that was able to put up a lot of goals against the St. Louis Blues. I believe put up a 6 spot twice on them, so it's got to be big. And then my third key is Chris Letang. I would give this to Evgeny Malkin, but I feel like he's going to come up huge anyway. Chris Letang was a guy that in Game 5 struggled mightily. He would I believe it was Trevor Daley. With him out, Chris Letang was able to step up and play some big minutes. He actually wasn't really able to. He was a -4 in Game 5. And then in Game 6, he responded by scoring a goal. So he's going to have to find that consistency. He's the Penguins' best defenseman. He's the guy that they look to the most to play the heaviest minutes on defense. And he's going to have to continue to be that good against the Sharks. Now, my 3 key players for the San Jose Sharks. First one is Tomas Hertl. I think he's got to start scoring at a little bit more rapid rate. Obviously, it's been mostly Thornton Pavelski and Couture being the leading scorer of the playoffs so far. I think that if the Sharks can find, 4 or 5 guys to consistently put pucks in the back of the net with how good Martin Jones has been, and how, I wouldn't say clutch, but he's just been that goalie that, feels like he knows that, we've got 3 goals, I can't let in less than 2, or I can't let in more than 2. It seems like he's a good situational goalie for the Sharks. He's just been solid so far. He was very solid last night, even though there was a scare late against the Blues. Tarasenko netting 2 goals late. There's just been a calmness in Martin Jones throughout most of the playoffs. They haven't had to turn to James Reimer too much. They turned to him once in the conference finals. After Martin Jones I believe he was pulled after 4 or 5. But anyway, he's got to be big again. My second key player for the San Jose Sharks is Brent Burns. The Sharks' defense goes as he goes, and He's been big in some games, and in other games he's just been an absolute renegade. So that's my second biggest player. And then third is Joe Thornton. I think he's the guy that's the heart and soul. I really think that for the Sharks, had a kind of a revitalizing year. He's obviously not getting any younger, one of the older stars in the NHL right now. But he's the guy that really just facilitates the offense when he's on the ice. He's one of the best passers in the league, and can't really say he's been here before, but he's got a lot of just experience. He's been in the playoffs a lot, so you can say that. But again, he's got to be big. He's got to, if nothing else, at least be able to facilitate the offense and net a decent amount of assists in the finals. Now I'll get to my 2 keys to victory for each team, I guess X factors. And again, start with the Penguins. And my first one is keep playing fast. You could really feel momentum change very, very quickly between the Lightning and the Penguins. It was a very momentum-oriented series. The Lightning would have these runs where it just seemed like, you just felt like they were going to score. And the Penguins, whenever they did win their games, it was just by pure domination on the stat sheet, outshooting the Lightning 21-5 in the second period in tonight's game. That's using their speed just to be able to force the Lightning to have to take unnecessary penalties and kind of get off their game. Being able to outwill and outskate a Lightning team that that's really one of their trademarks is just playing hard, and obviously tonight at one point playing desperate. But again, I think the Penguins, you got to play fast. It's got to be up tempo all the time. And again, that's how they roll. Second, for me, is the secondary scoring. I mentioned that earlier. It's been a big thing when Crosby and Malkin aren't on. It's tough for the Penguins. They've been big so far. That's why I mentioned Phil Kessel. That's why Nick Bonino's been so huge so far. That's why Brian Russ was so huge tonight. Crosby's been good. Malkin's been okay. But, again, that secondary scoring's got to be there for the Penguins to be able to take full advantage of, all the assets that they've been able to have step up so far in these playoffs. Like I said, some secondary scoring that's been really good so far. So my 2 keys to victory for the San Jose Sharks, first one is Martin Jones to continue playing just solid in net. If they have to turn to a cold James Reimer, or if Martin Jones gets a 6 spot hung up on him again, especially by a team that's as good as the Penguins, then it could be a long series for the Sharks. My second key to victory for the Sharks is keep the momentum going. The way they've been playing in the last 2 games, it's they took control of that St. Louis series. You just knew you felt like, at least I felt like in Game 5 they had it. After that was over, I get it, they had a 3-2 lead. Obviously, most teams win in that situation. But it just felt like this was different. I grew up watching the San Jose Sharks. If you're, a millennial and you're a hockey fan, then you grew up watching the San Jose Sharks and all the disappointments that their fans had to go through. 4 or 5 conference finals where they did not make the cup, and now they're finally there. So, get into my prediction, and you know what? I just think this is going to be such an entertaining. Before I get into it, I think this is going to be such an entertaining series. There are so many storylines here, from the Sharks being here for the first time in franchise history. To the Penguins being, Sidney Crosby being back for the first time in a while. The Penguins kind of struggling a little bit in recent years to reach that pinnacle they seemed like they were at in the late 2000s, early 2010s. But again, I think this one's going to be Penguins in 7. I feel like the Penguins just have the edge here. I want, just because they've never won a cup before, I feel like Sharks fans, they've been waiting so long. It's been so much disappointment. I feel like the Sharks are kind of like the Flyers of the West. And, I think that their fans deserve a cup, but at the same time, it's been a couple of hard years for the Penguins. I think they deserve, their fans have been good. They've been loyal. I think they deserve it pretty much just as much. But like I said, that pretty much does it. I'm excited. It's my favorite time of the year for sports. having the NBA Finals coming up and my favorite, which is the Stanley Cup Finals. There's nothing like it. It's great. But let me know how you feel about the series and who you think is going to win. But that's pretty much it. So, yeah.